All right. Thanks for the kind introduction, Charlene. I'm here from I'm here from California, where we don't have rain, so this is sort of nice. And I'm also what is this? Seasons? I'm also from San Francisco, which is sort of the technology bubble. So it's nice to get out and speak to other people. And so when I came from San Francisco on Sunday night before I left, I went to yoga for the first time in probably over a year. And it was this candlelight yoga. And so I'm sitting here in a room for an hour with 100 other people, and everybody's breathing in and breathing out. And I'm looking around, and there's all these candles, and these are real candles, and these are paraffin wax candles, and everybody's breathing in these particles, and I can smell it, and I'm thinking about it, and next time I go back, I'm going to bring an air quality monitor, and if it turns out to be as bad as I think, I'm going to replace all those candles with battery-lit flickering candles. But if you didn't notice, I'm wearing a couple wearable air quality monitors, actually 3 of them. And so we can speak a little bit more about that throughout the presentation, but I've been asked by Charlene to present on the future of environmental sensors, and specifically wearable sensors, specifically to improve people's health, to improve the health of buildings, and also to improve the efficiency and to build an economic case for having healthier people in buildings. So just a little bit about myself. To get the elephant out of the room, I do have the same name as a famous comedian, and I will try my best to tell jokes. I started out as a journeyman electrician, really studied electronics, and I was on a lot of industrial sites where we were exposed to very harmful air quality, such as crystalline silica dust, which is carcinogenic concrete dust. So these people were drilling around us. The thing about concrete dust is it's basically invisible. Once you drill into it, you don't see it anymore. And you're in enclosed rooms, so it's not going anywhere, but people would immediately take their mask off and expose themselves to incredibly high levels of carcinogenic dust. And so there was clearly a need, there was clearly a disconnect from what people saw and what they were actually being exposed to. And so we wanted to fill this need by looking for monitoring equipment, which were currently incredibly expensive and large. And so I founded a company that detects different environmental metrics and has a mission to improve environmental health around the world. And we've won a couple awards in popular science, and currently, if you flip open Time magazine, we won the Best Invention Award. So the company is called TZOA, and it's wearable technology for environmental intelligence, meaning we track different things in the environment. We try to personalize it for you. And specifically, we're detecting air quality. We're detecting particulates. So we've made our own particulate matter sensor, which is cheaper. It's smaller, and it's more accurate than anything else we've seen on the market so far. We also do VOCs, and we do CO2 monitoring, and we have the whole gambit of temperature and humidity and visible light, et cetera. And so why does that matter? So I'm going to try to tell you why this matters through a couple stories, and the first one's going to be about healthy, productive people. So Allison's sort of a combination of people I've met. She's not an actual individual, but these are real stories. So Allison's, she's a high-paid individual. And when she's looking for workplace, she's looking for, how many days of vacation do I have a year, and is there some sort of perks to being in this workplace? And she has a pretty substantial salary and other job offers that she gets.
Please pardon the interruption. Your conference contains less than 3 participants at this time. If you would like to continue, press *1 now, or the conference will be terminated.
Okay, I have 30 seconds to make my next point. So Allison is probably a lot of people here. She's been sick several times this year. She has headaches. She's cold all the time. She's not feeling very productive. She's not at her best, and she really likes to contribute to work. So it's not the best situation. And there's things that we think about when we are looking for a new job, and we're thinking about the workplace. We think about the different perks. The 2 things we don't really think about are the people we're going to work with, and the environmental exposures and the type of lighting, et cetera, in the building that we're going to be moving into. And
Please pardon the interruption. Your conference contains less than 3 participants at this time. If you would like to continue, press star 1 now, or the conference will be terminated.
So the outcome of this is that Allison's supervisor, which she has approached, has no idea how to handle this situation because Allison's supervisor isn't trained on how to fix environmental exposure problems and doesn't even understand what's going on. Allison's getting bad performance reviews. In the end, she's just unhappy, and you can imagine what happens. So let's imagine a different situation. So now Allison's working at a different workplace where she's feeling taken care of, she's highly productive and happy, and she's just gotten a great performance review. She can't quite tell why there's a difference, but she definitely knows that she's going to stay with this company. So here's another story, and this is all linked together. But this is a story about efficient workplaces and employers. So in other words, how do we build an economic case for this? So in workplace 1, what was wrong? Well, as Mariana just spoke about, dim lighting, so not feeling productive throughout the day. Allison was sitting under an AC unit where several people were being exposed to direct cold air, and so they couldn't concentrate. And conversely, if it's too hot, you feel relaxed and you feel too comfortable and you can't concentrate either. As well as poor ventilation and, as a result, harmful indoor air quality levels. And as we've just seen with the recent study that came out, we can talk about that, that has a big impact. So with that study, and by no means is this a conclusive study, and there's definitely ongoing research in this space. And just the fact that I had this in the slide, I had to put it here so I was up with everybody else knowing that this came out. But clearly improving ventilation, improving indoor air quality, lowering CO2 levels, lowering particulates, et cetera, has a great impact. And really focusing on these things that it's affecting strategy and information usage. So if I'm an employer and I'm employing, let's say I'm Google, for example, and I'm employing software developers who are $200,000 a year, I mean, I want those people to be productive. Information usage, as they learn, they can apply that knowledge. I mean, these are things that, as a company, I'm going to pay to have that extra productivity. So what is the impact of one person quitting their job? Well, turnover cost is 20% of salary, an annual salary. So $29,000 in this case of Allison. That's disrupted work, HR costs, even disruption to the company culture because you've got this turnover now. And what is that over a 30-year period for the employer owning the building? Well, only 8% of that cost of owning that building is energy usage, ongoing maintenance, et cetera. 92% is employee salary and benefit costs, and one of those benefits is health care. So there needs to be a greater focus, of course, as people have said, on people. So what's the difference in that second workplace? Well, this is sort of where we'll get into talking about the future here. Now, let's imagine that a badge similar to the one I'm wearing now was embedded with sensors and that Allison was wearing one of these badges. And this badge was detecting different environmental metrics like the sensors that we're creating. These sensors could then talk to the building management system. It could talk to the HVAC, and it could optimize for comfort, improve indoor air quality, and even save energy. And these sensors, they would be worn by everyone, just like everybody in the room here. And actually, we have a wearable version of our product coming out in May, which sort of looks a little bit Star Trek-y as well. You can see it on my arm here. And so how would this work? Well, first of all, we would simplify things to the point where we would still need somebody to manage it, but it would probably just be 1 or 2 people. It would all be connected to the heating, ventilation, air conditioning system. They'd be conducting data analysis and technical support. So let's say Allison was cold for an extended period of time. Some alert would pop up for this individual, and there could be some sort of intervention that was made. Now Allison's going to feel like she's being taken care of. I mean, people are watching over her, making sure she's being treated properly. There's, of course, going to be less retention and happier employees. So what is the execution of this? Well, there's different building zones. So every room, typically in a building, at least newer buildings, there's different zones. You can control heating and cooling and humidity in these different areas, as well as ventilation. So how would it work in general? Well, what if people all had their own company app where they could type in, well, this is my point at which I feel productive, or maybe there's a scientific study that says, here's where I'm most productive. Well, at that point, if I knew an individual's preferential temperature, humidity, air quality, ventilation, et cetera, I could personalize the building for them and the areas that they're in. And it could be this dynamic building where if I walk into a conference room with 5 other people, it's going to automatically adjust the temperature and all the other variables for the people, for the individuals in the room, to make sure they're all comfortable. Occupancy sensing is a great one. If you see these two things above my head here, they're actually tracking everybody's cell networks, and they can be used as occupancy sensors. So there's actually people right now working on a building product where they utilize Cisco's data network of what these sensors are collecting in real time, and you can change the occupancy settings of a building to say, okay, if nobody's in the building, why are we still lighting the building? Why is there still heating going on? So an efficient building is only efficient if there's people inside of the building, right? And another way we could do that is with beacons. So if we had beacons throughout the building, we could actually see based on our sensors, based on our smartphones, where you are within the building. So that's another great way to help control these building zones and give different variables to different people. And of course, we could then flag issues. So what about beyond the workplace? Now let's imagine we somehow executed on this building system. I'm not going to say it's happening next year or the year after that, but I mean, we can definitely build some proof of concepts. We can definitely tie these systems back into the ventilation. And if CO2 rises, we can increase ventilation. If particulates rise, we can filter that air out. But what about beyond the workplace? Because Allison also has a life outside of work. She goes outside for walks. She goes to the gym and to the restaurant and home. And she spends a great deal of time at home. And if my employee is being exposed to a great deal of harmful environmental exposures outside of work, it's detrimental to my company. It's detrimental to my bottom line. And so I want to make sure they're protected, not just in the workplace, but after. You know, if I had an injury after work, when I was working construction, maybe I'm playing soccer, and I then come into work and then feel it. Well, that injury didn't occur at work, but I'm certainly going to get workers' compensation because I claim that it happened there. So it's important we understand where environmental exposures occur and how to intervene. So in this case, wearable sensors can be worn outside of work. Personal exposures can be detected throughout the day. So you can see the screen on the right. We're actually tracking the 24-hour personal exposure for particulate matter and different indoor air quality metrics. And that's based on governmental standards. And if the government has implemented these standards, we should be following them as employers. We should take away the excuses not to do that. And so let's say, for example, Allison is in a home where it's incredibly dirty and she's not sleeping well because of it. We could intervene. We could put in air purifiers. As a company, if I knew that my employees were sleeping in really bad air quality situations and waking up groggy, I would pay the $500 to have an air purifier installed in their home. You know, I think that would have a great ROI. And so anyways, the conclusions here are that employees are taken care of, they're healthy, they're productive. As a result, employers have improved retention, they're saving money, and so when these employees start to realize the benefits of these systems, they're going to say, I want my workplace to have that system too. And then the employers are going to demand that when they move into buildings, that these buildings have these systems already installed, because employers don't want to figure out, I mean, maybe someone like Google is willing to figure out how to build a system like this, but other employers aren't willing to figure out how to build this type of system. So when building developers start getting demand for these types of systems, then the green building industry as a whole is going to come together and try to create these systems. And once that happens, building developers can start charging premiums and provide services around creating these healthy environments and doing the data analysis and providing the technical support. And so that's the future as I see it. And thank you.